Hey everyone, this is Phil, and in this video I'm going to be talking about reviews, specifically in the speedcubing context. So reviews are pretty much found everywhere. We make them a lot ourselves, my company at least, and I make them, except they're really crappy on purpose, but that's done intentionally. But yeah, essentially, the review is a good source of information for people who want to, say, compare things, learn more about a product's features, or perhaps make a buying decision. You know, if you want to buy that new cube, but you have no ability to try it because it's so new, you look up reviews. And the YouTube space has a lot of good reviewers, a lot of good reviews, and there's like hours and hours of content on any one given puzzle if it's cool enough. So today we're going to talk about reviews in a critical manner. I'm going to be explaining some of the top things that I hate when I watch reviews. And I do watch a lot of reviews because we work with a lot of influencers and YouTubers, and I end up watching their content a lot just to learn more about their style and what they like, and just to get to know them better so that we can both assist them and serve them better, but also understand what their thinking process is. So these are the top few things that I absolutely find terrible in reviews that I've seen. Never gonna name any names because that's bad. But if you think hard, you might be able to understand what exactly I'm talking about. And at the end, I'm gonna talk about a fairly maybe it's not controversial, but it's pretty strikingly sharp opinion that I have at the end of this video. So stick around and I'll explain that. So bad reviews. Beyond the whole unprofessional editing or beyond being like factually incorrect, that's the easy stuff. I'm talking about reviews that are not intellectually stimulating, reviews that are not useful. So let's talk about that. So the first thing I want to talk about is how you frame yourself in a review, right? There are ways you can make suggestions and reviews of products that are different. So, for example, a person with enough credibility can speak for people in general. So they can say, yeah, I have an understanding of what people like, and my guess is people will like this product. This is actually really hard to do. So if you're doing it, make sure you understand that you have a very high burden to actually demonstrate that. And of course, other people say, yeah, this product doesn't do the trick for me. I don't really like it. And they speak for themselves, which is always very credible, unless they're lying to themselves. But I'll get to that part later. People do lie to themselves. So yeah, you can either speak for yourself or speak for people in general. Just when you make a review, my suggestion is to communicate how you're framing the review so that people can relate to it better. If this guy is around like 9-10 seconds and he's reviewing the puzzle, I can say, okay, you're reviewing it for yourself and I'm like around your speed, so I can relate to you, and then maybe I'll find what you're saying more relatable and more interesting and more credible. Okay, so that's number one, just framing the review. Some people just do the review and don't really talk about the perspective. I think the perspective is important. The second one is also a matter of perspective, and that is be aware of products or cubes or puzzles, whatever you're reviewing. Be aware of products that are like laterally related, right? And don't assess a product in a vacuum. What do I mean by that? So when a consumer is buying a product realistically, the greater consideration is whether that product is the best for them and whether it will fulfill their needs, whatever they consider their needs are, right? Real people have real constraints like budget, time, and people tend to compare things because they want the best for themselves. They want to look the coolest. They want the food that's the tastiest. They want the car that will get them from A to B the most reliably and safest. It's people have, they prioritize the things that are important to them. So when they're buying a product, like a cube, for example, they want the cube that fits them the best, right? And so naturally, there's going to be other products in the picture that compete for that one thing that the person wants to get. And your job as a reviewer is to clarify that decision so that the person can go like, oh, okay, here are the cons and here are the pros, and like, I got this, right? So product performance relative to other existing products is quite important. I'll give you an example. So the RS2M cube it's a cube that just released, and my main issue with it is that its competition renders it pointless, right? So you're talking about a cube that's has a few characteristics. I like to call them like characteristics or tags, just things that are attached to the cube that you associate with the cube. So you think RS2M, you think heavy, strong magnets, frosted plastic, 50 millimeters. These attributes start coming in here, right? And then you think, okay, so these are the attributes of the cube. What other cubes have those attributes, right? And you'll find that there are a lot of other cubes that they don't share the same exact amount of attributes or the same mix of attributes, but they share a very large percentage of these attributes. Like the Meilong 2x2M is 50 millimeters, or very close to it. It is frosted plastic, it is magnetic, it doesn't have strong magnets, and the price is cheaper. And the MGC 2x2, the original one, not the Elite, it doesn't have frosted plastic, but it's 50 millimeters. It has medium magnets, it moves really well, it's lighter. And then you start to feel like the attributes that stand out. The other 2x2s don't have really strong magnets and they're not super heavy. And then you realize those attributes that stand out don't really make that cube unique in a good way. It makes the cube unattractive. So you're talking about a product with attributes that are encompassed by other cubes, and the unique attributes are not good, right? Or they're not likely to appeal to a lot of people. So you're left with a product that I consider completely pointless. Moyu already had many 2x2s in their portfolio, including the Meilong 2x2M and the Weipo WRM, which is a pretty good 2x2. So, their line isn't devoid of magnetic 2x2s. So, yeah, it makes you wonder, anybody doing a review of the RS2M, if they do not mention the Meilong 2x2M, they've made a grave mistake, and I would not consider their review credible at all, right? Because being ignorant of other products that are cheaper and share a lot of similar attributes, it's really hard to ignore. And if you're really trying to inform a viewer and trying to cause them to make a good decision about what to buy, you're really making a mistake if you're not talking about other products that the viewer should consider. Okay, so think about the product as a web of relationships with other products, right? And that's what makes certain cubes like GAN stand out, right? GAN has all these crazy technologies, and it has all these unique tags, and those unique tags, the price might be a bad one, that's like a negative attribute, but those other unique tags, they're not exclusively bad. So when you have unique tags that are not exclusively bad, that's what makes your product different, and differentiation in the market is a strength. So that's why people give GAN cubes good reviews, I think. It's because they have actual attributes that are unique that can't be replaced by other cubes. Cool. Okay. So the next topic is thinking about the target audience. So there's usually something for people with different preferences, and the job of a product designer in any industry is to solve people's problems, right? If you're talking about designing sporting equipment, you're going to say, okay, in this sport, there are these types of players, and these types of players have these types of different styles, and they have these preferences, so we're going to make a gear for all sorts of these players because there's a market and they'll buy it, right? So you pick maybe your top 3 or 4 different segments of players that your marketing department gives you or whatever, and you just start making products for that. So think for yourself when you're reviewing a product, what problem does the product try to address? What is the point of the product? And you might get some really interesting answers. So here's an example. Yushin Kailin V2M. That was a cool cube back then. Not a lot of people talk about it now because the budget cube market is so crowded with quality puzzles, like the RS3M 2020, which basically just, it made a big statement in the budget cube market. But I would like to argue that the Yushin Kailin V2M still has a lot of utility out there, and let me explain why. And it has something to do with its tags. So It's tiled, and it fits a very specific preference because it's tiled. It's black. It's very tight and difficult to pop/destroy, and it's still a decent price. So now you have these two tags that are fairly unique. It's tiled, and unless you want to buy a Rubik's Cube, the Yushin Kylan V2M, that's an aesthetic that doesn't get explored very often. So that makes it unique, and it is very difficult to pop. I take out pieces of cubes on a daily basis, do it all the time. Cannot take a piece out of that cube. It doesn't happen, right? And it's difficult to destroy, which is quite good for beginners because you don't have to worry that they'll take it apart and ruin their cubing experience or think the cube is cheap or something. So yeah, that's interesting. So when you're reviewing a product, think for yourself, what is the product trying to do? What is the problem it's trying to address? And if you don't find a good answer to that, maybe the product's not that good. Well, we'll see. There are a lot of other factors too. All right, so now we're going to get to the part with the whole discussion about that strikingly sharp opinion that I have. So I made a visual for you so you can see what I'm talking about. It's right here. Very good. Okay, so let me discuss this, and I'll bring it up when I'm ready to discuss like the content in detail. But I just wanted to show you the chart. The chart is essentially a chart of credibility, right? Credibility is the idea of how believable you are, right? I am a credible cube reviewer because I've worked in this industry for almost 10 years. I was a world-class speed cuber. I've tried nearly every model of speed cube in those 10 years, and I've seen a lot of different things. So I consider myself a fairly credible person, right? Versus, person maybe who isn't so experienced, who just started. They're credible within the context of like saying, I like this, I like that. Here's my opinion. But, it's not the same if, you're just not very experienced. But you'll learn. There's a lot of information out there, and this is part of the learning process. And then there is, parties that are completely not naturally credible, like manufacturers. So let's talk about this list. Let's talk about this list here. So, least credible to most credible, okay? I think the least credible people making reviews are manufacturers. You cannot trust intrinsically a manufacturer reviewing their own product. They make their own product, okay? Like, if you believe everything a manufacturer says about their product blindly without any sort of like demonstration, then I would consider you quite gullible. You're the marketer's dream, okay? That doesn't mean manufacturers are lying to you or anything. It just means they're really proud of their work. They want to produce the best possible content for their work and portray their work in the most positive light. All right, everyone does that. When you go out, you dress up in the best possible way to look good for your family and your friends. When you post your YouTube videos about your solves, a lot of you post PBs because you want to look at your best, right? So everyone does this. It's not like a crime or anything, but when you're trying to inform your buying decision on review content, be very careful about manufacturers because they will never, it's not like GAN's going to be like, hey man, this is the GAN 11. It's okay. It's not great and it has this one problem here, but enjoy it. They're not doing that, right? Okay, so under manufacturers is retailers. And yes, I know I represent a retailer, so like I'm caught up in this section right here. Retailers are not credible either. Okay, and retailers have a very strong burden to demonstrate that they are credible. And I really feel strongly about this. There's a lot of retailers leave reviews on the product, and the one thing you have to know about retailers is retailers want to sell you stuff because that's how they make their living. That's how their business is sustained. That's how they do life, right? And this is highlighted orange. I'll explain that later. And this highlighted blue, obviously. So explain that later. But retailers, I think, need to do something extra in their content when they review products to demonstrate that they know what they're talking about, and that you can trust them. And I'll get to that later. And then next is sponsored cubers. So I consider sponsored cubers more credible than retailers because typically sponsored cubers have stake. They have reputation at stake, and their person is more out there. So in case they're wrong, they can really get hurt. If you catch like a high profile YouTuber saying, "Oh yeah, this Sheng Xiao Mr. M, haha, best 3x3 in the world, bro," they're not going to last long. Okay, credibility is like the currency of the YouTube space when it comes to reviewing products. Okay, if you don't have credibility and they're called out, they're dirt poor. So at least they have some stuff there. And the cubers who are sponsored for speed cubing are self-interested. They want to get the best times using the best possible products so that they can maintain their level of performance. So that if they don't like a cube, they're not going to keep using it because it's considered self-harm. Like why would you handicap yourself at a comp? Right? And regular cubers are great because they don't have commercial interests and they're quite credible, especially when they're reviewing products on their own terms. When they're phrasing it like, I think this product is good because it's good for me, that is super credible. Unless you're lying to yourself, which is like really rare from regular cubers. Now, let's talk about a pet peeve that I have. It is actually one of the stupidest things I see in videos reviewing products. And that is, I hate when people do reviews and they don't show the puzzle performing in a realistic solving environment. So, I hate it when people have, let's say, like a 10-minute video on a puzzle and all they do is like 20 turns and they're like, "Oh, sexy move. Oh, this cube's pretty good, bro." Like, that is so mind-numbingly dumb that it boggles my mind people consider it a serious video. Like, not doing solves on a puzzle and reviewing it is like reviewing food without tasting it. Like, sure, you can look at it and you can smell it and you can see like, "Oh yeah, it contains this ingredient. I think it's pretty good." But you gotta eat the food to review it. Okay? You gotta solve the puzzle to review the puzzle, right? And I think for the people out there who don't do too many solves on the puzzle, maybe because they're not confident in their speed cubing prowess, just think about it this way. All right? You're reviewing it for yourself. And it doesn't really matter what skill level you are. Let's say you average 25 seconds, which is pretty good for if you're just starting out. People are watching and they also average 25 seconds. And if they find you, they'll be like, "Hey, look, this guy's around my level, and because he's my level, I can relate to him better, and then I can believe what he's saying," right? And likewise, if I see a person around my skill level, I feel the same way. I can relate to them and I can say, "Okay, you're very believable." So it's not actually a bad thing if you're, not Felix speed or sub 10 or whatever standard that you find like amazing. Just be yourself and review your product on your own terms, and base the review on results that you get. And that's why I think the whole like reviewing a puzzle without showing the speed cubing is a mistake. It's because when I review products, I review them in the context of the results I get, right? And I think that's important for a speed cuber because what makes a speed cuber happy is time, right? For most speed cubers, if they're not collecting a puzzle, they want to get a good time, they want to be happy, they want to know they're improving, and if you're not addressing that, you're really making a mistake. So, for me personally, if I get a good time or get good averages on a cube, I will consider it a good cube, right? And if I really try and I can't, I'm going to ask myself, why can't I perform well? What's wrong with me or the puzzle? And if I can't find anything wrong with me, like fundamentally, I'm going to say, okay, this puzzle is not compatible with me and I can't suggest it or I can't give it a good review. And that is why I feel okay emotionally giving the Qi MS a positive rating, right? It's because I get really good results for me. I beat my normally expected averages on it all the time, right? And yeah, a lot of people disagree with me. I actually had one guy on Instagram, not going to name names, but he was heckling me and giving me a hard time. He was like, "Oh, if Phil didn't review the Qi MS this way, there would be no sales, and he's just doing it to sell the cube." And he thought it was a good idea to flex his world rank at me. And ironically, it was lower than mine, like his peak world rank. He's like, oh, I happen to peak number something in the world. And yeah, I know what I'm talking about. Like, dude, I was ranked higher than you, bro. Like, don't even start there. All right, like, not that it matters. Okay, I'm just telling it as it is. I get great results on it, and I'm gonna tell you I got great results on it. I think it's a good cube. All right, and then I start to describe the attributes of the cube so that you can decide, oh, these attributes are important to me. So then you can decide whether you want to get the cube or not. Easy in this case because the GMS is like super cheap, so you're not risking very much getting it. But yeah, I feel good at the end of the day. Even though this guy, challenged me publicly, which was really stupid, but he challenged me publicly. I feel good because I know that I got good results, and I don't care. Okay, like, so that's the thing, and so not portraying the puzzle or not showing the puzzle in a realistic solving environment in a review, I think it's one of the biggest mistakes a reviewer can make. And if I watch a review that doesn't do that, I don't retain a single word that person says. I don't consider it useful at all. Maybe if the editing is cool, I'll be like, you're pretty artistic, but I don't care about your content. All right, so that's my sort of feeling on that. All right, so let's go back to these colors. So one is orange and the other is blue. Okay, orange and blue, they're very famous colors. Okay, Naruto wears them all the time. But yes, in all seriousness, these are two different types of people. Okay, and it has to do with emotions. Okay, and shame. Have you ever felt shameful about something? Probably, right? Maybe you made a mistake and you're like, oh shoot, I shouldn't have done that. I feel regret and I feel bad. But like eventually it goes away, right? So these two parties up here, manufacturers and retailers, they are pretty much immune to shame. Okay, I would like to argue that. And sponsored cubers and regular cubers, they are susceptible to shame. All right, so you know that this factor, the shame factor, is definitely at play with sponsored cubers and regular cubers more, on average, theoretically. Okay, not naming any names. Sponsored cubers, you know, if they advance an idea that is like widely considered categorically wrong, I think they would think twice about publishing it because it would be considered very shameful, and they would be like, okay, I can't live with this. Corporations, manufacturers, and retailers, they're much better at coping with shame. Okay, I've seen manufacturers and retailers make stupid, outlandish statements about products that make no sense whatsoever. And you know what? They do it anyway because they feel probably emotionally that they don't feel too bad about it. Business is business. Got to make the money. Right? Give me the dollars. So the dollars greater than shame. Okay? And you don't see that very much now, but in the past it was kind of an issue with certain particular products. They would make statements to sell a product and then backtrack it at the end, be like, oh, the market got a hold of the product and they're not impressed, well, whatever. And guess what? There are not many consequences out there, right? Can you imagine if someone like big on, let's say, JR Cuber or JPerm said something categorically wrong in the interest of, advancing their financial interest? How big of a PR problem that would be? Like, if JPerm is like, oh yeah, Mr. M is the best thing ever, Sheng Xiao is going to pay me the big bucks to say that. He's never going to do that, by the way, because he's actually an extremely level-headed and intelligent dude. Like, never does that. But imagine like how out of character and how terrible the PR consequences. When I've seen manufacturers say stuff like that and retailers say stuff like that, the consequences are not even close to being so severe because they're harder to attack because they're corporations, and B, people don't really think of them the same way as people. So naturally, all things considered, I think manufacturers and retailers are more tolerant towards taking risks to make sales, and not really, they don't feel very vulnerable to shame. I feel that's just my personal opinion. And these two-party sponsor cubers and regular cubers, they're a lot more careful about it because they know that when they put their face on YouTube and their selves and their hands on YouTube, people can say like, "Oh, those are the hands of Felix Zemdegs." So yeah, Felix telling you that the Shengshou Mr. M is the best 3x3, it's not going to go too well. Okay, so that's my opinion on reviews. I hope that you don't have to turn every review into a think tank crazy exercise of comparing every single little thing, but I hope that this video introduced some concepts that you can consider for your next review, or if you're just chilling in your chair watching other people do reviews, maybe think about what they're doing in the video. All right, are they considering the product in a vacuum, or are they considering it in a spectrum and thinking about it in the context of other products that are close to it? If they're reviewing the RS2M, are they talking about the YJ Yupo V2? Are they talking about the Meilong 2x2M? Are they talking about the MGC 2x2? If they are, extra points for you. If they're not, then maybe you should begin to question how useful the review is. Of course, you can learn things from the review. You can learn what the features are about the cube, but in order to inform a buying decision, perhaps you should think about it critically and think about what problems a product is trying to solve. If there's a lube out there and it's being advertised, think about it. What problem is lube trying to solve? How does it relate to lubes that are similarly priced? How does it relate to lubes that are functioning similarly, right? And if there's not enough information about it out there, that you start to wonder why, right? And of course, when you're watching a review, pay attention to who's actually doing the review. Is it a retailer? Is it a manufacturer? Are they sponsored? Are they just some regular dude? Think about it and see for yourself. Is this person honest, and is their appraisal of the puzzle consistent with their performance on the puzzle? I can't imagine a person performing poorly and saying that the puzzle is good. I can't imagine a person performing well and saying the puzzle is bad. And I can't imagine a person not performing at all and giving you their opinion, because what is your opinion based on? So, yeah, that's it for the product reviews. Hopefully this was interesting. If you want me to talk about anything else, just put it in the discussion. If you have any questions or if you disagree with me, also post it in the description. Sorry, not in the description. Only I can edit the description. Post it in the comments, and I will respond to you, and hopefully we'll have a good chat. And if you are the guy heckling me on Instagram, post in the comments so I can block you on YouTube because you're a loser. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. Don't ever heckle people about their own opinions, especially people with years and years of industry experience. It's not a smart idea. You're not going to win. And if you disagree with someone's review, just respectfully tell them, hey, I don't see it that way. Here's why. Then you're great. All right. See you later. Have a good day.